Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alesandra Najera, and I'm a program officer with the Water Foundation. I work on our Healthy Communities team, which is currently focused on ensuring all people have access to clean, safe, and affordable drinking water, and also seeks to help communities adapt to a changing climate. Many of you are likely already familiar with my colleague, Alex Paxton, who heads up our Los Angeles program and works regularly with many of the people I see on this call. I'm here with you today because my program currently focuses on aligning state and federal programs to ensure funding reaches the communities that need it most. So I handle a little bit more of our federal work, supporting safe drinking water and environmental justice grantees across the nation. On today's call, I'll be focusing a little bit more on California programs while sharing a little bit about the federal programs that are of interest to the philanthropic community and to the nonprofit community. I know that Abby and Rachel have already given fabulous summaries of some of the funding available to our state across the program. So I'll be zooming in a little bit more on a few of these programs that are important to our organization. The philanthropic sector generally is very interested in supporting efforts to ensure funds for drinking water, as we heard, primarily coming through the SRF, successfully reach the communities that need it most. And thus far, a lot of the strategies that have emerged are focused first on technical assistance efforts and community engagement. So this will be exploring innovative techniques to help systems access funds, particularly systems that have struggled to access funds in the past, and ensuring community perspectives are able to influence the types of projects that receive funding and that their voices are included in the process. Next slide, please. So just nationwide, I wanted to give a tiny bit of additional federal policy context on the environmental justice movement that is currently gaining steam at the federal level. The Justice 40 effort is a framework included in a recent executive order issued by President Biden that states that certain federal investments must provide 40% of the overall benefits to disadvantaged communities. The clean water and drinking water SRFs are two of several priority areas that the administration has identified for this investment, which again is 40% of the overall benefits to disadvantaged communities. Now, how these policies will work are still under development, but as we know, these are really important policies because recent analysis by organizations like the Environmental Policy and Innovation Center and University of Michigan recently found that federal funding to help drinking water systems invest in infrastructure generally doesn't reach communities in the greatest need. And there are also significant racial disparities in how this funding is distributed. Now, a number of our community advocates have been saying this for years, but it's wonderful to have analysis and attention to this issue finally after all of their years of work. Finally, the SRF funding is of major interest to the philanthropic community, just given the sheer volume of the funding that we've already heard about. And because of this Justice 40 prioritization opportunity. Next slide, please. The good news is that while there is still plenty of work to be done here in California, I would say, having worked with a number of groups across the nation, California is in relatively good shape due to the hard work that we've all been doing on the SAFER program and the process to identify systems in need. So as you heard recently, there's a huge amount of SRF funding available. We have heard that the total could be nearly $6 billion coming to California through the SRFs in total, which would require potentially nearly $1 billion in state matching funds. So it's hard not to think about the opportunity presented by the budget surplus that we heard about earlier in leveraging this available funding. But the importance of the SAFER program generally is hard to understate, just given the data that we have available through the needs assessment process to be able to identify and track drinking water systems, and the important tool of consolidation as a solution for certain small systems that are struggling with a limited ratepayer base. Next slide, please. One policy that I just wanted to flag that hasn't emerged too much yet in this conversation is a number of different programs at the federal and state level intended to address the issue of low-income rate assistance. So low-income rate assistance is another kind of tool in our toolbox to ensure the human rights of water. As many of you know, nearly all life-sustaining utilities have an affordability program. So we have affordability programs for energy, except for drinking water. So this is a really key topic to dive into, as the state has already been working on addressing this issue. And there are a number of state programs and federal programs that are moving forward. So this is important, though, as you can see here with the statistics, particularly to Southern California, because UCLA reports that across community water systems in LA, the average household expenditure for like 12 CCF of water per month in LA County saw an increase of 25% over 4 years, which is well above the increase in median household income and inflation. So the cost of water is going up, wages are not going up, and so this is going to represent an increased burden on our communities over time. And finally, just there's a great disparity in how much residents pay for water across systems. So some places are much more expensive than others. So we particularly need to find solutions for renters and for undocumented residents who face restrictions in receiving certain federal funding in order to fulfill the human right to water. And I did want to just flag that it's been great to hear that some systems like DWP in LA have been working on easing the application process or removing the application process entirely for arrearage funding that they have available. So at the federal level, there's a temporary program called the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, which is housed at HHS, and that funding has been moving to the state through CSD. And that funding has been intended to address some of the COVID arrearages, of which California estimated nearly $1 billion in COVID-related debts for households across the state. Second, there's a permanent pilot program currently at EPA that could be authorized under the Build Back Better bill, which Abby mentioned earlier. So that would be a pilot program, a 40-city pilot at EPA and Build Back Better. But we do hope to continue advocating for a long-term solution that would be a permanent low-income rate assistance program at EPA. The next step will also be creating a permanent low-income rate assistance program that goes beyond just arrearages or debts. The pilot LIRA program at EPA, as I mentioned, is in Build Back Better, and then at the state level, Senator Dodd last year carried a bill that was SB 222, which would provide a framework for a low-income rate assistance program that would strengthen the state's ability to receive that federal funding and kind of structure a program. That legislation is still in process, and the legislature and the administration remain committed to continuing to dealing with that issue. So these are all important tools to be able to support our efforts to ensure low-income customers are able to afford their water bills without risking disconnection and jeopardizing the human right to water. And I just wanted to flag that I know that organizations such as the East Yards, CBE, the Communities for a Better Environment, and the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy have been partnering with some utilities in Southeast LA to help them apply to the state's arrearage program at the State Water Board. So I just want to continue to encourage everybody to see if there's partnership opportunities with CBOs and helping community members access the available funds. Next slide, please. So just looking forward, some of the key solutions we have here are clearly there are future policy opportunities at the state legislature. We have Senator Dodd's bill. At the federal level, there is the LIRA pilot program that could be housed at EPA and the Build Back Better bill, which is currently stalled in Congress. But it is very important to support historically excluded communities to ensure that funding goes to where it's most needed, and then continuing the hard work already underway to secure these programs. Second, there are just plenty of opportunities and solutions for partnership to ensure community participation. We've heard some really creative ideas about how larger water systems could partner with smaller water systems in the Southern California area to provide technical assistance and other support. And I encourage all of you to continue exploring these opportunities, and the Water Foundation would be happy to just help broker conversations around how this could potentially work. And then when working with historically excluded communities, it is vital to ensure community participation and feedback. So some easy first steps would be translation services and ensuring that meetings are held after work hours so that community members are able to participate. It could reflect partnering with community-based organizations to host listening sessions and ensure that the feedback from those listening sessions is incorporated into program design. This can seem difficult given the relatively short timelines that this federal and state aid needs to be distributed, but sometimes it's important to go slow to go fast in order to achieve durable and lasting solutions. So with that, I look forward to questions in the Q&A, and I will turn things over to Dee for next steps.